Can you think of a time when you were rejected? Usually, this is something that happens in relationship with other people. You're putting yourself out there, you're wanting to be accepted in one form or another, and somebody shuts it down. And they're like, no to your proposal, whatever it might be. Well, how did that feel when that happened? Did you enjoy feeling rejected? Did you change the way you went about approaching people once you were rejected? Do you have a fear of rejection now because it's happened in the past and now you avoid it at all cost because it didn't feel good when it happened? Well, that's what I'm here to talk about today. And I'm hoping that by the end of this episode, you have a different way of thinking about rejection so much that now you will look at it as the positive thing that it really is. Welcome to the episode on rejection.
Everything is working out for me. It's working out for you, too. It just takes believing that it is. We can have, be, and do anything. The key is to care about how you feel and choose to feel good right now.
As is usual, something happened to me which inspired me to record this episode on rejection. And you probably guessed it, I got rejected. So what happened was I decided to advertise for an intern. I'm looking for somebody to kind of do some media management for the podcast, some social media production, helping me with editing the podcast episodes, things like that. It's been kind of a long time coming that I've been considering getting some help on the podcast because it's a lot of work. And I'm getting to the point where I really want to focus more on the creative aspect of what I'm doing and dole out some of the busy work to someone else so that I can just focus on the part that really gives me joy. So I had decided that I was going to go to the University of Washington and put up flyers to advertise for an intern. And I hope you're laughing because it makes me laugh to even think about the fact that I was going so old school when considering advertising for a job position. I quickly realized that obviously everything is online. So when I called the university and I asked them if they had like a career center, someplace where I could advertise, I found out about this site called Handshake, which is widely used by universities. And it's actually really cool because I can put a job out there looking for an intern and it can go out widespread to universities all over the world in order for me to find somebody that's a good fit for the position I'm looking for. So I did this. I set up the profile for Handshake. I wrote out the job description and I started applying for approval at specific universities. Well, that was like 3 days ago. And since then, I've received 9 applicants, which is really exciting to me. I'm like, wow, this is happening a lot easier than I thought it would. Such an amazing response. Actually gave me a little bit of anxiety because I was thinking, okay, wow, all of these applications are coming in now, and I didn't have my next step lined up. And I wasn't sure exactly how to go about processing these applications, setting up interviews, and actually choosing someone for the position. So what I did is I wrote up a message saying that Dr. Williams, LLC is still accepting applications right now, that we will be setting up interviews soon. If you could please just get back to me by responding to this email and give me some days and times that work for you, then I will get back to you with an interview time. Within probably 10 minutes of sending out that message to all 9 applicants, I had one response from one of the applicants saying, "Thank you for getting back to me, but I'm no longer interested in this position." And Reading the message instantly gave me a feeling of negativity. I felt rejected. I was rejected. And I kind of went through this process of trying to analyze why I felt that way. First of all, I have to share that the feeling was overwhelmingly negative. Rejection is. It can feel that way. It can feel overwhelmingly negative. But I think the reason that I noticed it more than in the past is because I'm in alignment more of the time. So I'm experiencing good emotions the majority of the time now. So when a negative one hits, it hits really hard and it really gets my attention. Like, ugh, I don't like that. That doesn't feel very good. It felt like disappointment. It felt like discouragement. And overall, it just felt like somebody was shutting me down and saying, no, you're not good enough. I don't want you anymore. And that pretty much encompasses what rejection is. So I'm sitting here analyzing everything and all of the emotions and understanding that what I'm experiencing is rejection. And then because I know that whenever I experience negative emotions, that just means that I'm out of alignment with my inner being, I realized, okay, that means that the way I'm thinking about this rejection is in opposition to the way my inner being is thinking about it. So that then prompted me to say, well, how is my inner being thinking about it? And this was magic for me. Just asking that question brought on this feeling of gratitude that washed over me. And it was a little surprising because I just jumped from discouragement, disappointment, and rejection overall up to gratitude. And usually moving up the emotional scale is more of a gradual thing. But I think that I was able to make such a drastic jump just because, for one, I caught it really early. There had been no momentum gathered in that negativity. It was almost instantaneous that I realized the negative emotion, realized what it meant, and pivoted toward a positive direction to understand how my inner being thinks and feels about it. So it allowed for me to jump up there very quickly. And then as I felt this gratitude, I thought, gratitude? Really? I'm feeling gratitude for this rejection? What does it mean? And I realized that I had this undercurrent desire that all of the applicants who have applied for the job would want to come and work for me, and I would have my pick of whoever it is. I didn't have a conscious awareness that that was something that I wanted, but it makes sense because when it comes to making a choice, we want to be able to sift and sort and pick the one that we like the most. So I realized that's what was happening. And when this applicant pulled out as an option, I realized I can't pick that person anymore. And what if that was the best person for the job? What if I just lost my opportunity with the person that is going to meet my needs the most? It was doubt. It was fear. Then I analyzed the gratitude. Well, in what world would I experience gratitude when somebody is pulling out from that position? Well, I realized how much work was going to come into play when I had to go through each of those applications, sifting and sorting, and trying to figure out who the best fit was. It was going to be somewhat difficult and time consuming. It was going to take a lot of effort on my part. And then I realized that this rejection was designed in perfection. It was my inner being letting me know this person isn't the one, because I know at my core that the universe is working for me to get me what I want. This was a gift. This was the universe pulling one of those people out there that I now do not have to even deal with. It's taken care of for me. I know that that person is not an energetic match to my desire. And once I realized that, that rejection became such a blessing. I thought, wow, that's awesome. The universe right now is my assistant. My assistant just came in and did the busy work for me. Not only did that decrease the number of applicants I now have to deal with, but I also did not have to reject that person, because ultimately I'm only going to be picking one person for this job. And that means I have to dole out some rejection of my own. And knowing that people usually don't like to be rejected doesn't make me feel good to do that to somebody else. But because this came about in the way it did, it worked out for both of us in all perfection. So that was my experience. That was my rejection today. And it was a really, really positive experience for me. And I realized that it actually was a step 5 moment. So let's review the steps really quick. The first step is asking. That's when you experience life, you realize what you want and what you don't want. By realizing what you don't want, you have now created what you do want in your vibrational reality. That happens automatically. You don't have to do anything. Step 2 is source energy answers your request and gives you that which you want. That also happens with no effort on my part. Step 3 is allowing. We do that just by feeling good in as many moments as we possibly can. Being in that state of alignment opens the gates for the desires that we have in our vibrational reality, which now exist, to come into our physical reality. Step 4 is you just get really good at step 3. You're doing that most of the time. And step 5, which is what happened in this moment of rejection for me, was I'm back in step 1 again, realizing I don't like this experience, but you're not mad at yourself about it, and you're not overwhelmed with negativity. I felt the negativity, but I very quickly was able to process it and realize that it actually was positivity happening for me to support me in my desire. It was really cool, and I want more of it. I want more step 5 moments. It felt like mastery. And that's what step 5 is. When you have mastered living your life by utilizing law of attraction through deliberate creation, those step 5 moments are happening all the time. And so I wanted to kind of just do an episode on rejection, because I realize that this is something a lot of us are dealing with. Getting over that fear of rejection, or just accepting rejection, can change a lot of people's lives for the better. So let's unpack it a little bit.
Would you like to have an ad-free experience? I know you probably have my intro and my outro memorized by now, and maybe you just kind of want to cut out that ad space, this one right now that you're listening to, so that you can just get all of the content of the episode. Well, if that does sound like something that you're interested in, I've put together a Patreon account, and I'm offering all of the episodes I've recorded so far without that extra stuff, so you just get the content. And I'm also going to be offering members early access to the newly released episodes. So I'll be putting those on Patreon several days before the episode releases on all the other podcast platforms. So you'll be able to listen before everybody else. You can find the link to the Patreon in the show notes. And I'm also going to post on social media, so you should be able to find it on all of my pages there as well. I look forward to getting to know all of you guys better and engaging in some co-creating together. For now, I'll just get back to the episode. See you on Patreon.
What is it about rejection that doesn't feel good? Well, it's not feeling wanted. It's a lack of acceptance. And the reason that we don't like that is a very specific reason. And it's one we're doing to ourselves. It really has nothing to do with anything the other person is doing when they're denying us that acceptance. It's because we are seeking that which we cannot obtain through any kind of external force. We're looking for approval. We're looking for acceptance. We are seeking value and worthiness of who we are by looking to someone else to bestow it upon us. The only true way to feel your worthiness and know your value is by connecting with your true self, your inner being, through alignment. And at that point, you realize that no one else gets to designate that for you. It's already there, and you know it. But it's when we are putting ourselves out there in that way, and we are hoping to receive that kind of response back so that we can have that feeling of worthiness, that we are putting ourselves in a vulnerable state. Sometimes people do accept us, and they do respond to us in a desirable way, in what we're hoping for. And then we have that momentary feeling of worthiness, and we feel like they value us. And that feels really good. But when they don't respond to us in that way, that's when we get that feeling of rejection. And it's really hard to not internalize that, because what you're really wanting is that internal feeling of worthiness. But think about going into a situation where you're approaching someone for some kind of connection or some kind of relationship, and you're doing so from a standpoint of already knowing your worthiness. You already know your self-worth. You know your value. You don't need anyone's approval. You don't need anyone to see it in you. You already know it. Then when they respond in that way and they deny you that connection or that relationship, it doesn't feel like rejection anymore. It feels like, okay, it feels like communication, that you are not a match energetically with that person. The reason that that works is because when you're coming from a state of self-worth, that means you're in alignment when you are making this approach to someone else. You're putting yourselves out there, but you're not in a vulnerable state. You're in a state of confidence. You know your worth. When it's not matched, it's a gift. It just means that that person could not give you what you're looking for out of that connection or that relationship. You know that if you were an energetic match, then that would happen organically and naturally. That would be cohesive, and you would match up. But when they deny you, and there is that rejection there, you know that they're not an energetic match to your desire. And that is a nice thing to know. Why would you want to waste your time on somebody that isn't going to be able to give you what you want? So when you can look at rejection in that way, it changes everything. You realize that it's just communication that the universe is providing for you. And if you have faith in the universe, which is always conspiring to give you everything you want, whether you believe it or not, then you can know, okay, this one wasn't a match, and not let it drop you down in emotion to feeling bad when the rejection is present. So the way that I'm going to approach this from now on, when I feel like I'm putting myself out there and wanting to make some kind of connection with another human being, is I'm going to bring the universe along as my assistant in doing that. It is my hope in that moment to attract somebody who is a perfect match to the relationship or the connection that I am desiring. I have an idea in mind of how I want it to go. And really, I want it to be a match. I don't want to have to connect with several people in order to figure out what I really want. I want to know what I want and then get that person the first time. So basically, I want the universe to do the busy work for me. just bring the people around who might be interested, and I will wait and sense that inspired action. And when I feel the inspired action to go and talk to somebody, then allow it to play out as it does. And if acceptance and approval and connection happens, I will trust that. And if disapproval and a lack of connection and rejection happens, I will trust that. Either way, I'm getting what I need because I'm going into it with faith that the universe is by my side and serving me in every step of my way in matching my desire. So how do you know now is the time to reach out to somebody or to connect? I'm kind of picturing somebody like in a bar and seeing someone that they're attracted to and they really want to go and talk to that person. How do you know if this is a good idea? Well, inspired action always feels really good. So if you feel like going and talking to that person, you could trust that and go for it. But there's also something else to consider. Have you been doing the grid work to fill everything in based on your desire? I haven't talked about grid work yet on the podcast, maybe just in a mention here or there. I've talked about the vortex, and that's that holding place, that vibrational reality where all of your desires are realized. And that's where they sit, and you're interbeing with them until you are an energetic match to it, and then it comes into your physical reality and it manifests. Well, the grid work is all of the energetic filling in of cooperative components which allow that to happen. So for instance, before I went and advertised for an intern, I started doing some energy work about what it was that I wanted. I've been doing focus wheels. And a focus wheel is just where you have a big circle full of pie shapes and a circle in the middle. And in the middle, you write down what your desire is. And then for each of the pie shapes going around the circle, you write in statements that match your desire. And this is a way for you to align with your desire and start to build some momentum going in the positive direction toward getting what you want. But that's a very specific way. And that's something to do when you are in a really good state. You're in that state of alignment. You're feeling really good. You're already aligned with your vibrational reality. But if you're really wanting something and it hasn't come to you yet, there's a good chance that the vibrational offering that you have is actually matched up with the lack of what you want instead of your desire. And if that's the case, you don't want to be specific. You want to go general. So that just means spending some time thinking about things in a general way that match up with your desire. So if you're looking for a romantic relationship, then you would start saying things like, it feels really comfortable. It feels like love. It feels like support. It feels like security. It feels like fun. It feels like laughter. A lot of I feel statements, because the way that you manifest things is by finding the feeling of it. But you're not getting specific when you do stuff like that about the actual person you're trying to bring into your life. You are just going general about how you want to feel when you have that relationship present in your life. So for me, what I want is I want to attract an intern who's going to be a perfect match to me and the podcast, the vision for the podcast, the vision for my coaching business. And this person is able to fill in the gaps where I need them to in order to help the business grow and thrive and be successful. So for me, I would say things like, it feels like progress. It feels like thriving. It feels like more time to focus on what I want to focus on. It feels like more creative production. It feels like support. It feels like wisdom and knowledge. It feels like genius. It feels like collaboration. It feels like a perfect match. It feels equally beneficial. It feels like growth. It feels like wealth. It feels like abundance. It feels like fun. It feels like hope. It feels like excitement. It feels like inspiration. It feels like passion. Those are things that get me into that feeling place of, wow, it feels really good to have this person as an intern in my business. And that's the grid work that I'm talking about. When you get this inspired feeling to go and talk to someone, or go and advertise for someone, or go to approach someone in any way, ask yourself, have I done the grid work? Have I been focused energetically on what it is I really want? Because that'll give you a really good idea of what is really happening when you do feel like approaching someone. If you have been doing that energy work, then you know, okay, this is it. This is a moment when everything is lining up and I'm going to follow this inspired action. And it's going to turn out great. But if you haven't been doing the energy work, if you've been looking to find someone, but you've been really aware of not having that person, and you've been focused on all the negative aspects of that person not being in your life, and then you see someone and you want to approach them, chances are that's not going to go in the way that you're hoping it will. So it is very important to do the energy work and then look for the leads and then follow them. But no matter how you look at it, if you approach someone and they reject you, no matter what, it is the best thing for you. And you can trust that. Because the universe is conspiring to give you everything that you want. You can take that to the bank. So rejection, not a bad thing at all. It just means that person is not a match to your desire. So I hope that you can look at rejection in a positive way from now on. And know that it's just communicating to you where you are on your path and that there's something better coming on down the way.
If you're enjoying the podcast, you can show your support by leaving a rating and a review on your favorite podcast platform. You also can follow Dr. Williams' podcast on all social media platforms and subscribe on YouTube and by going to www.drwilliamspodcast.com. Deliberate creation is the key to living life satisfied, and that is my wish for all of you.